Hi, Warren, alcoholic.
Warren.
Yeah, I'm a bit nervous, I won't lie. I hope I get the orders right of the experience, strength, and hope, but I'll just do my best there. So I grew up in Mpangeni for a little bit, and my parents, my biological mother, gave me up for adoption, got my biological father, and so my stepmom was like my mom growing up, and then I had 3 stepsisters and a stepbrother, and yeah, they were all a lot older than me, and yeah, they all moved out the house pretty quickly, except for my one sister who only moved out till when I was in primary school. But yeah, growing up, I was like in a normalish home. My mom had a lot of love for me. When I say mom, I refer to my stepmom. And we're very close, and they could call me like a mommy's boy. I would always, even from a young age, remember trying to manipulate her to get my father's side so that I could get something if I wanted something from the shop, because I know my dad would say no, and I had it pretty much wrapped around my finger. Yeah, in preschool, I remember there was this clown there, and I was terrified. I remember just running away from this thing and going hiding in the one classroom and bawling. And yeah, it was a very strange and weird thing. It never happened again, but just that one clown freaked me out. That's like one of my earliest memories. Yeah, going into primary school, I remember the first day getting dropped off there, I was very uneasy feeling, and I thought like my whole world had ended. Very codependent from that age already, obviously, with my mom. And yeah, it was like I'd been detached. And yeah, going through school, I was bullied quite a bit. I was a lot skinnier, and I had this strange voice, which I kind of still do. But yeah, I was born with like, apparently my windpipes or something went open, and I was like wheezing. Anyway, yeah, my grades and that were okay at school. I got a bit overconfident up until high school. Like I wouldn't actually study, and I'd just be lucky, I guess, to sit where I was sitting. But then on the other hand, people were dreaming of that. I just wished I could fit in with friend groups. I remember I had one very close friend from grade 2 or class 2, and we used to spend every weekend with each other and that. But when it got to high school, we kind of drifted apart, and that. I had my first drink at age 11. I remember it was my youngest of the 3 stepsisters' 21st, and I downed a Hunter's, and she thought it was very funny. My dad wasn't very impressed, but I just remember that like dizzy feeling and sliding down the wall and laughing. It was like this hazy vision, and yeah, I remember my dad telling me, "Just never drink, never smoke," because his grandpa was an alcoholic and he lost everything, and told me the stories of how him and his dad would go and visit him on the street after losing everything, and it was embarrassing. And I thought, yeah, no, I'm not like that. I'll show you, yeah, so I didn't drink again, obviously. It wasn't condoned in my house. My mom would have a brandy or a whiskey, like once every second Christmas or something. My dad didn't touch alcohol, but he gambled a bit. So yeah, by the time I went to high school, going back to that friend story, I saw that these guys weren't cool in other people's eyes, and I wanted to be with the cool guys. But now I had a bit of a problem because these rugby players and all of these oaks that I thought were so cool, they used to just like bash me down the corridor and push me down the stairs and just randomly tune me. And so I had a bit of a dilemma because I really wanted to be a part of them and I couldn't. So after school, I started bodyboarding, and then I met this other group of friends outside who were dodgy, to say the least, but I guess that's where I found I belong, and I just fitted in there. So I kind of lived this duplicit lifestyle. It's like hanging with these hectic oaks after school and on weekends, and at school I'd still be this nerdy guy, and then hanging with my normal crew of friends and still going through the same bullying things and doing nothing about it, even though I behaved and reacted differently when I was with these other guys after school. I kind of had this sort of pity at school, but at the same time I wanted to follow the rules and not get into trouble and disappoint my mom. And yeah, at 16, before we go there, I started smoking cigarettes when I was 14 with these same guys after school and that. And my mom, being the caretaker and the codependent go-to and that, she smoked as well, and we kept this thing a secret from my dad for like 2 years, because I'd actually smoke with her. She would say, no, it's fine. And I remember when he found out, one of my friends actually slipped up. My dad just randomly questioned him, and yeah, he didn't talk to me for 2 weeks, wouldn't even greet me in the morning and that. And so I obviously felt very guilty. But it didn't stop me. Nonetheless, Warren does what Warren wants. And look where that got me. So when I was 16, I experimented with weed for the first time. I remember going down to the beach with these guys. Now, but by that time, this sort of circle had diminished and grown, and like new members joined. And anyway, these guys were smoking, and I thought, what's that smell? Because they went down by the rocks there, and they said, no, you want to come with them? I'm like, no. I thought, just these guys are doing drugs, that's bad. And they're like, no, it's not drugs, it's just weed, it's natural. So, for a while I like put it off, and I was like, no, I can't do that. And then one day I just had this, okay, let me go try. And I went with these O's. And it didn't really do anything. I just tasted sif and it stank. Until the next time, then it like hit me. But the next week or so when I tried. And it kind of like, sure. Because by that time I was drinking in the weekends and that. I know it's AA meeting, but yeah, by that time I was drinking in the weekends and that, with these guys and going out and trying to get into clubs. But I've kind of thought, sure, this weed thing is cool, but it's risky, and I don't want to go to jail, and I don't want to like upset my parents and that. So I didn't touch that for a while, and going through school, I would really just drink on the weekends with these other guys, and then go to school and face these other guys, and they slowly started pulling away from me. They didn't want to know me anymore, because I remember going to Sunday school with one guy growing up, and then to church and to youth, and my behavior was not what it used to be, and it wasn't who he had got to know. Like, I'd changed. So I understand why. My marks at school started dropping. I still wasn't studying and that, but I was scraping passes, but nowhere near like I was. The bullying still carried on. Didn't do anything about that. And I had this very very squeaky voice when I was like 17. My voice started changing, and I remember going into the front of the class doing orals, and I would just remember my ears felt like they were on fire, and looking at everybody, and then they were like giggling. I'd just have to like look down, and it was terrifying for me to do orals, but I knew I had to because that's what we did. I was pretty well behaved in school up until the end. I think there was just this one teacher who didn't like me. We had this little book with poor behaviors, and she was the only teacher that ever wrote in there. Anyway. Finishing school, I'd only had like 2 girlfriends, and I thought, I wasn't as cool as other guys because they were like, with all these girls, and I was quite embarrassed that I was still a virgin at 18, and my dad had this friend from Zimbabwe, and they had a daughter, and anyway, we got together over the one December holidays, and then she left to go back to Zimbabwe, and I remember I was broken. It was almost like that feeling of getting left at school again when I was in grade 1. And I changed there again. My behavior sort of drifted to like, I actually don't care what people think on what I do, and didn't think about consequences much. Anyway, that ended, and I started working at a video shop. I had no idea what I wanted to do when I left school. I did manage to pass matric. I got a little exemption thing as well, but I didn't really take that up. I just went to a video shop and I watched movies and that every night, and there was a girl that worked there. She was a year above me in school. My parents were friends with her parents. I remember we used to go for bras and that on the weekends. And then our friendship grew, and things started developing. I remember she said, look, she's going to the UK to study for 2 years and didn't want one of us to get hurt. And I was like, no, that's not going to happen. Anyway, the time came for her to go, and I tried to change her mind, selfish me, convince her otherwise. It didn't happen. Thank goodness for her life. And she went over, but then again, this time, that feeling of loss just increased, and I was smoking weed every day in the morning, wake up, using constantly. And then friends introduced me to other substances, where they had in the past, but I declined because I thought that, no, those things are hardcore. I will never touch them. And I eventually started touching those things now because I thought they could fill this gap that I felt I had inside of me. And with using so frequently and my thoughts overrunning my mind, I got into psychosis for the first time. was 19 years old, and then I went to my first treatment center. And I actually wanted to go. I said to my parents, look, something not right here, I need some help. And they took me there, and it was a 3-week program. And I remember coming out of that like mind state and sort of like grasping this. They had a 12-step program. It was very condensed, obviously. And I wanted to stay another 2 weeks. And I thought, sure, this is going to be the life for me now. And yeah, that didn't. Anyway, I left after 5 weeks. On that night, I relapsed with one of my old mates. And then my parents took me back to the place, and I didn't want to be there. So I went back and did what I did. I got my job back at the video shop. But it was different without that lady that was there, and I had no direction in my life. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I couldn't see myself sitting at a video shop, but I wasn't putting in any action or taking any initiative. I felt my parents always did everything for me. They must tell me what to do, and it wasn't happening. They almost wanted me to grow up, but it wasn't happening. And then by chance, some guy came in and he said, because I used to do little scribbles on the stock sheet at the video shop, he said, no, he was an Appy jeweler, I must go see this guy. And just go show him some drawings. Anyway, I started there. I was open, honest in my CV. I've been to rehab, and he's like, okay. And about 2 weeks in, after starting there, he pulled out this little medicine container and it had coke in it. And he's like, yeah, I know you've been to rehab and that, but I'm going to do some of this. You don't have to, but you can if you want to. And I was like, okay. And then it started quite an unhealthy relationship at work. I was working like a machine though. No fear whatsoever. Just pressing out the stuff. But it became a bit of an issue. Like I would go with his wife and him back home and use throughout the night and drink brandy and just, I remember, hey, this stuff, you use it, you don't get drunk. But the problem is you don't sleep either. And then, things become a bit miserable without substance. So, we all know what happens there. There's a pattern emerging here. I met this other girl who was on holiday. By this time we'd moved out. We had a townhouse in Margate, and my parents had sold it and thought they were a lot older than most people's parents, and they decided no, they needed to settle down now, and they bought a park home in the caravan park. And so I met this girl who was on holiday going through divorce. She was about 7-8 years older than me, and I thought this was the one now. Again, I thought they were all the one. And I went to work the one day, and it was a weekend. It was my weekend to work in the workshop alone. So I said, no, she must come too. And I didn't get my boss's permission. And by Monday morning, he came there, and he was very upset. And we got into a bit of a fight, not physically, just verbally. And he told me to fuck off, excuse my French. But understanding it later on, we always spoke like that, but I took it personally. And I said, cool, I will. And I took my lunchbox and I left. And this this girl was deciding to stay from the Free State. So now I was jobless, living with my parents still. And I thought she was the one, but I had no real income or way of providing. And so I'm getting a bit lost here. So my parents didn't want anything to do with that story. They said, no, she can't stay. I didn't listen. I forced it upon there. She stayed. Eventually I moved to the Free State with her, and it didn't last long. And then I went to Witbank. I contacted one of my mates that used to stay at the townhouse next door in Margate, and we grew up together. And I told him to come and fetch me, and my dad put money in his account. He came and fetched me, and then he introduced me to some other substances, which led to another world of problems. And by this time, I'd caused so much shit. It's unbelievable. My parents, my mom wasn't impressed, because obviously this guy came to fetch me. He stole his mother's car, and he came down to fetch me. But his mom and his dad were divorced, and the story got around, and the dad said, no, he must come. I must go there, and they'll drop me in Harry Smith. They don't want me in this town anymore. So I went to another treatment center when I got back, and I was at the treatment center, and after a while, like 4 months, we went on this outreach, and there was another girl, and then some shit happened. And then, she ran away from the treatment center and suffered a hell of a lot of consequences as a result of that. And I still feel a bit guilty for that today, because I know I'm partly responsible for that. Anyway, that was the last time in treatment until now, so that was a good 8 years ago. I think, no, 13 years ago. And then I got clean, and I used again. And I got clean, I used again. And so the cycle carried on. I got another job, and I thought that this job that I was at the time, this lady kind of liked me, bought me my first car, and it was a bit weird. And then her husband, he was smoking weed and that, and then he actually had stage 4 cancer as well. But then I became their supplier for the stuff. So I, in my mind, became this Pablo Escobar of the town. And I thought, no, this is cool. This is another sort of a rush. And I was using cat, coke, drinking, all sorts of shit. But my main thing was weed. So I saw this whole rush thing about moving and looking over your shoulder, and then cops, and I thought, wow, this is actually more exciting than the drugs, but it's cool on weed. So I kind of stopped using the other stuff and selling that to pay for my weed. And it got out of hand. I got in psychosis again. I remember after doing things I never thought I would do. Crazy. The way I was brought up and the way I was behaving they didn't match. It was just pure self-will running ballistic. Never mind riot. So eventually I left that job. 2 weeks later I went back there. I got my job back. And this happened about 4 times. And then the lady's husband passed away. And that kind of broke me a bit because we got quite close. And I would actually consider them more family than my family, which is quite strange. But I guess it's the lifestyle and that I was living and the lifestyle they were living. I felt like I could connect with that. Then my mom passed away in 2014, and I never forget. I had this mate I told my parents he had a vegetable shop inside the squatter camp and that, but he was actually a dealer, and we would go and visit my mom in hospital, and I used other stuff again. Going to go see my mom in a deathbed, half my face. And I remember going in there, and I just had to go there to see her, and I wanted to get out of there so I could go carry on doing my thing. I actually couldn't give a shit at the time. It's a bit emotional at times when there was that hours or so of sobriety, but then I would just numb that thing again and use. And when my mom passed away, I was shattered. I eventually left this job for the last time, and they had enough of my shit, and they asked me to sign this piece of paper to say that I'm actually leaving now. And I left, and I had nowhere to go, literally. My dad didn't want anything to do with me. He had had enough of putting me in rehabs and seeing me struggle, and he can't do anything about it. So he kind of kicked me out. I was unemployed. I couldn't pay rent, so I got kicked out of my flat. So I went to go join my mate in the squatter camp there for a while. And it sounds a bit funny, but the welcoming I got there was, it was beautiful in a sense that my whole life I'd looked down on these people, and then here they are, just taking me in as I'd been there my whole life, and the realness of it was, anyway. I eventually thought that this isn't the life for me. I wasn't brought up to be like it. It didn't last long. It was literally like 2 weeks, but it felt like a lifetime. And I felt like I just kind of belonged. But one of my mates who was my one trainer at the time, he said, "Hey, come and stay here." And I stayed with him for like a month or two. And my sister was in Durban, my younger one, or my youngest, 21, the one who's 10 years older than me. Sorry. So I went there, and it was just supposed to be for Christmas Day, and then she said, "No, stay till New Year's." And I did, and they didn't condone my weed habits. So I didn't smoke for that time, but they thought it was okay if I drank. But by that time, I'd worked in clubs and that, and just the smell and the drama that came with alcohol kind of put me off. But I had this reservation that I would smoke at some point again. I got clean while being in Durban for like just over 3 years. And it was hard because my sister had moved away. I got kicked out of their place because I didn't put in action to get where I needed to be job-wise. Regardless of being sober or not, the behavior was still there, undisciplined, So when my sister left, we kind of mended the relationship. When she left, I moved in with this pastor and his family, and the church kind of helped me out there, and I managed to kind of get some sort of stable footing to regain my career. And it was tough, but things were starting to pay off, and I thought, okay, now it's nearly the time to smoke, nearly. But I still didn't have that financial security. That's always been quite a thing. There was a time growing up where my dad was unemployed for like a year or two, and I remember I never ever wanted to go through that. So I made sure that I'd only use when I'd got that sort of financial security. I got this job that I'd been begging for literally every week for like 3 years. I got the job, and in that month I decided, no, it's cool, I'm just going to use a little bit now. And the madness of it, I know every time from previous times being clean, I lose my mind and I go into psychosis and just piss people off around me and cause chaos and drama in their lives. But the thought didn't cross my mind this time. So, pure selfishness. I decided, no, it's okay. I just won't go there this time. I'll control it. And I kind of kept it under wraps. Didn't let anybody know. Found a little plan here and there. Secret eye drops. And I was using in moderation to a point where it wasn't financially affecting me, but mentally it was not good. I was destroying my brain because I'd gone into psychosis again after 9 months of this supposedly I'm going to control this time. And my boss at that time, being the kind soul that he is, gave me another chance because I'd gone to work talking shit, talking stories about them that weren't true. You know how it says in the big book, stepping on the toes of our fellows. Well, that describes me very well. So I'd gone to Addington Hospital after the psychotic episode. After like 5 days, come out, promising to change. I'll never let my behavior go this way again. And I got into psychosis as a result of all the years of the substance abuse and shit that I've done without anything. I remember I'd taken some tests to work and they were like, no, come, you need to pee. So I'd go there and they were like, what the hell, it's negative. And then they'd like do another one because they thought I was choking it and it was negative.
10 minutes.
Okay. So, yeah, that was the time when I'd just given up. I told him I need help. I don't know what to do. And he said to me, no, there's this place in the Midlands I can go to for no sort of set period of time, because I was fearful I'm going to get locked up in a straitjacket. I kind of knew something wasn't right, but I didn't know what it was. Anyway, I went to the Midlands to a treatment centre there, and I learnt in detail how the steps work. I still don't know everything, but I'm grateful for this sort of like foundation to build my recovery on. And yeah, just seeing all the times in my life when I'd blamed people and I thought, no, this situation it's got nothing to do with me. Why am I involved here? It's all was to do with me in some way, shape or form. And I learned how to take responsibility for my actions. So after doing my step 4, step 4 and 5, I had this feeling of like, wow, everything's lifted and this weight is lifted. But I thought, no, it's cool, it's time to leave rehab now. But to my surprise, it wasn't. I ended up staying there another 3 months, which actually I enjoyed. It was cool. Spent a lot of time doing things I never would have done, humbling stuff. But it was fun. And then came the time for me to go, and I'd agreed I'll go to the halfway house. And I'm staying in the halfway house currently. On my way down here, God taught me a lesson in patience, and I crashed my car, and I'm very grateful of how that turned out, because I literally had no money. Didn't know how I was going to live in the halfway house. But with the way it worked out with insurance, and it was just a blessing in disguise. And my UIF had just come through as well shortly after that. And coming to meetings I've done meetings and that in the past, but I never felt the connection that I do now. I can look at just about everybody and see myself in them. I see the similarities and not the differences. And I think that was a big thing for me in the past. I'd always be judging and being arrogant, like, no, I'm not like that. My substance is different. But it's not the substance, it's me. That's the problem. Also, the people, places, things thing. I sometimes think to myself, it's me that's the problem, not those things. Since doing this thing properly this time and not having these like escape routes in my head, there's a certain peace and a feeling of content that I can just live by. I notice in my work, I used to like go mad, throw things and kick and swear, and I'm a lot more calm and peaceful. My relationship with my sister, it's open cards, we can talk, it's like what my mother would have wanted. And I just feel like I can make her proud today if she's watching. all the material stuff I've learned over the years mean crap. It's just a temporary thing. And I've learned that fear is a lie. It's a nonsense thing in my mind that it happens, even though I know it's a lie. I can't do anything about it. It happens, and I need to check that sort of thinking with my sponsor and I need to let go and give it to God and get on my knees. And by doing that, I'm able to maintain my level of serenity and my patience instead of being a defectual human to the point where I'm incapable of fitting into society. I'm now sort of living by principle, I'm living by principle to the best of my ability. I'm not perfect, I still have defects that come out now and then, but progress, not perfection, and I understand I'll never be perfect as much as my perfectionists will try and tell me on some days, no, you need to be doing this like this and this. I understand it's a gradual thing, and I can't just take the gold medal. There is no gold medal. Only time I get the gold medal is if I die at the 3%. And I think that's a big thing. I've seen people come and go, and I just want to stay in the boat this time, stay true to myself, to God, and to my family and loved ones. And thanks for letting me share.